Hey everyone, J-Rod Plays here. I just had a viewer ask a question about the Guardian ranks requirements to stun champions and kind of how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and go over some footage of me stunning different champions and how it counts those champions stuns, for example. And the way that we'll be tracking that is through the challenge. If you go to week 2, absolutely stunning, you can see that I have 9 out of 50 stuns on champions. And the reason that this can be a little bit difficult is because it's not always easy to find the exact champions that you're looking for. So what I recommend is to check, and what you're going to look for is the lost sector symbol. That's going to be the symbol right here at Europa. This lost sector symbol is going to let you know where the daily lost sector is so that you can do the legend and master. And this will change every day, and the particular champions will also rotate with it. And this is going to be the best way that you can get champions to stun. You can get them to stun over and over again, and you can also make sure that you don't have any competition, so you're not trying to run down, like in a Nightfall, for example, a champion and somebody kills it before you even get a chance to get a hit on it so that you get credit. And so what I'm at now is I'm going to be showing you here at the Lost Sector here in Europa. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run back this way. I'm just inside the Lost Sector at the moment, so that way I have a little bit of quiet so you guys can hear me over all the chaos that's normally happening outside when you're in Cadmus Ridge. And so when you come up to one of these lost sectors, you're going to actually see that, and again, this is for newer players, there's a flag that's going to be sticking out, and this is going to let you know, hey, this is how you enter the lost sector. You don't just run past the flag. You actually have to engage the flag here, and you can see what the modifiers are. So right now the modifiers are Solar Surge and Strand Surge, and let me just put down a rift here just in case. And for the Solar and Strand Surge, these are going to give you the overcharged weapons, and so the overcharged weapons are going to allow you to do more damage with your primary weapon. And then from there you can also see what your 25% bonus is. So if I rock Diffusion, doesn't matter what particular arc, solar or void, it's just going to still give me that additional 25% damage. And including Strand too, we have the new Strand Fusion. It's a really good fusion as well for primary slot. And so for me, what I'm going to be rocking is going to be the Wish Ender for the barrier champions. That's going to be what it specializes in. If you look into it, it'll say strong against barrier champions. That's going to be evident there. Then I'm going to be running, for Overload, I'm going to be running the Pulse. So I have Overload Pulse selected. It's Arc as the burn, and so I'm going to be doing the Phylactic Spiral. That's going to help me pop Arc Shields. It's got additional damage as well. And this is going to be just essentially a stun weapon, and then I'll go back to my Wish Ender, which is going to be my main damage dealer, because it's also going to be enhanced since I'm rocking Solar, and Solar is one of the surges. And so this is kind of how you want to optimize going into these lost sectors if you're a new player. That way you don't get wrecked. And you don't actually have to go on Master. Master is an option, and it gives more rewards, but you can do it just as fast in Legend, and you can do maybe 2 or 3 legends in the time that you do a Master of Lost Sector if you're newer. So I would just recommend farming these Legend Lost Sectors if you were going to farm a Lost Sector. So let's go ahead and head in there. Another thing about Lost Sectors is that they're timed, so after a little while you won't be able to res yourself. I try not to die in the first place on these lost sectors. Some people use up their revives. I try to pretend like I have 0 revives whenever I play these lost sectors, so I play to make sure that I'm not dying. I play my life. And so now that we're in here, you'll see that we have the modifiers active, and these are going to be the modifiers on the right. We're in the Predition lost sector, and when I look down, there's going to be arc shielded enemies. And so these are the Harpies. I'm going to use my Pulse to pop them. And then this here, I can shoot through this Hydra shield with the Wish Ender fully drawn. So I'm just going to pick at this Hydra real fast. Hydra's going to run away. And you'll notice that since the Harpies have been weakened, because I have that additional damage, even though they're shielded, I can still one-shot a Harpy with my bow. And so that's going to be a strong thing when you have anti-barrier set up for you to use this particular bow. Although you can use any anti-barrier weapon, but I prefer using Wish Ender. And so here's going to be one of our first champions, I believe. There we go, here's our Overload. Alright, so now I've got my Overload in front of me. These guys are going to push you relentlessly. And the way you stop them is you just do rapid fire with your weapon. Now that's 1 stun, so I'm going to back up so I can show you that now I've got 1 stun on the Overload. Here it is, now I have 10 stuns. Now I'm going to actually kill him because he's pushing me, he's putting pressure on me, and I want to make sure that I can actually talk to you guys, and that's going to be a 2nd stun. Now I have 11. And so what you can do is, if you just wanted to mess around with him and play with this particular overload, you can just keep running away different parts of the room, stunning and running, stunning and running, and you can get your, I think it's 3 stuns with the overload. It should count them as 3 stuns on the overload. And then what you'll do now is you just move on to the rest of the lost sector. So I'm going to catch up once we have another champion that I can show you. So here we got our overload. So now we've got another stun. And as long as you keep shooting him with an overload weapon, he won't regen his health, if you notice that. So now I've got another stun. That's a second stun. I'm going to let him come back, and I'm going to keep picking at him. Alright, now he's a little close, so we're going to kill him off. And so that should have been another 3 stuns, if I remember, if I'm counting right. Yep, so now we're at 14 out of 50. And so that's basically how you handle the overloads. I'm going to move on to different champion types. I'm going to try to find different champion types, but essentially this is going to be the main way that I would farm for if I was trying to get the rank 6, I believe, requirement, or rank 7 of stunning champions. This is how I would do it. Okay, so now we got a barrier champion up there, and I'm going to show you how to deal with the barrier champion. This will be any weapon. You don't have to have Wish-Ender. Wish-Ender is just such a strong option because you get that additional damage from your weapon for having the class match. Now I'm going to clear these wyverns out because they are dangerous. And so since I have my additional scorch damage, you're going to see that I'm going to do a ton of damage to these wyverns on hit. Now with the hobgoblins, what they're going to do is they're going to stun up after you take almost a third of their health. And so this hobgoblin now is going to try to protect itself. I'm going to pop it, and that's going to be, boom, a stun that it counts. So I should be at 15 now. And boom, that should take me to 16. And so boom, there I'm at 16. And so now what you're looking at is an easy farm for your stuns for this particular seasonal challenge, the Absolutely Stunning. Since they're just kind of hanging back and they tend to just run away and they don't really push too much, they don't do a ton of damage, I can survive it. I can sit back and I can keep picking at these guys, and I can actually get stun after stun, and it counts a little bit faster. And so this one's going to barrier up. That's a stun there. I'm going to shoot through him. That's another stun. That one's going to try to barrier up. I'm going to let him barrier up again. Let him get us a little bit of health back. And with the Wish-Ender, you can actually see them through the wall, so you kind of know where they are from cover. That's why it's such a good weapon. And so as you can see, I'm just getting stun after stun. And we go back, you can see that I've got now 23. And so this is how you handle getting the stuns. You find a champion type, you find a lost sector that has this champion type, and you just let them continue to get stunned again and again and again. These are going to be the 2 easier ones in my opinion, the overload and the barrier ones, because the unstops, they don't tend to get their health back, so eventually you'll be able to pick at them and they'll die. And so you can't just sit there and over and over and over stun them again. But you should be able to find a lost sector that's got barrier, unstopped right up front, and they'll charge you. So just be ready for that. But stun them, back up, get some distance. Stun them again, back up and get some distance. And that's pretty much how you handle getting the stuns. And I'm going to go back real quick from this guy, and I'm going to show you in the Guardian ranks the requirements one more time, just so you kind of understand the idea that we're talking about here. So I'm going to stun him, get an extra stun. I'm going to go back. I'm going to bring up the Guardian ranks. I believe it was rank 6. Let's see. Or rank 7. Rank 7. Okay, so for rank 7, this is going to be the champions here. So I've been working on indirectly stunning overload champions and stunning barrier champions, and it just says stun them. It doesn't say you have to kill them. So right now, for example, just playing around with the barrier champions like I was doing, I would have gotten my 6 stuns. I would have gotten that, and you can see on them what can actually stun them. So a radiant person, anybody that's got a radiant buff with any weapon that has been converted, will stun them. So if you don't already have like a weapon, like for example Wish Ender, that has the intrinsic stunning for barrier champions, then you'll be able to have like a weapon that doesn't have anything on there turn into an anti-barrier weapon, and they can stun them when their shields are up when you're radiant. Same thing works when you have volatile rounds in your weapon from your build. When you have unraveling rounds in your weapon, like a slice weapon for example is a great option in this particular season. You can cast your class ability, and then you have your slice active, and the slice will then use those unraveling rounds to bust through the barrier. And then when you have a weapon that's got a pierce trait, for example, so that'll be any weapon in the artifact or any weapon like the Wish Ender, that's going to be how you would be able to stun them. And the same things go with these other 2 champions. If you look at them, you can see how you can stun overloads, suppressing, slow, jolting them, or with an overload trait. And then with Unstops, you can blind them, shatter them, suspend them, do ignition damage to them, or you can stagger them with the trait. And what it's talking about is these traits here. So for example, anti-barrier sidearm, that's going to give you the piercing sidearm. Unstoppable hand cannon, that's going to give you the unstoppable payload whenever you shoot them. Unstoppable bow. Now this won't apply to Wish Ender because Wish Ender is already a weapon that's going to have a requirement built into it, so it's already a weapon for the barrier champion, so you can't like double stack the barrier ability plus the unstoppable ability on a bow. But if you had a separate bow, you could then have your Wish Ender for your primary bow, and your secondary bow can be just any normal bow that doesn't already have an intrinsic built into it, and that can become an overcharge. That can become an unstoppable bow, which is good for unstoppable champions. Now, the overload auto rifle, same thing. If you have any auto rifle that doesn't already have a built-in ability to stun things, that auto rifle will then become the ability to stop overloads. And right now, what I'm using, overload pulse, that's what I've been using to stun and to keep the regeneration happening from overload champions. And so this is how you would go about selecting your weapon set, going into the Lost Sector, clearing up to the point where you have these particular champions, and then just going and having fun with them and getting practice on timing. If you'll notice that when I'm fighting this barrier champion, I knew when it was going to get ready to put up its shield because I already have it timed out. So if I can pop this guy a couple more times, I know he's going to turn around and he's going to put his shield down, and I've got that timing. And so, I mean, I missed my shot, but as you can see, now I got the stun on him still. And so I'm going to let him recover, so that way you can kind of see one more time the timing. So after I hit him a couple times, I can then hold my shot and wait, and he's going to stop, and then I'm going to pop him. And that's the ideal way to try to get them, because if you don't do that, what's going to happen is they're going to shoot at you with their barrier down. And so I'm going to let him try it again here, and you can see what he does. So he's got his barrier down, I haven't stunned him, so now he's immune, and he's shooting at me. So that's not ideal, that's not what you want. You want to be able to stun him by hitting him a couple times, and having him get ready, and then popping him immediately so that you can kill him and move on to your next enemy. And so what I can do is I can just sit here and pick at this guy again and again and again, and continue to get my stuns in for the season challenge that's here. Again, absolutely stunning, so I'm already at 30. I started this thing with 9, and so that's how I would do it. That's the way to go about it. If you have any additional questions, or if I wasn't exactly super clear on how some of these things work, because I was kind of going over them as a veteran, if you have any specific things that you may be saying, well, I tried this and it's not working, what am I doing wrong? I don't mind answering those questions in the comments. And so thanks very much for watching. I really appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. Any new subscribers that happen to subscribe off this video as new players, I don't mind kind of being a Sherpa when it comes to some of these guides and helping out players. That's the reason why I made my channel in the first place, was to help out players. So again, I'll see you guys in the next video. If you have any other video ideas that you're like, hey, I know how to do some of this item or some of this thing, but I really don't know in depth how that works, you can go in and send that to me, and I'll be glad to make a video when I get some free time like I'm doing right now. And again, see you guys in the next one.